Have you made a modification to your table saw and are worried that you won't be able to access its power switch in time if something goes wrong? Well, stick around and I'll show you my latest table saw modification that I should have made a long time ago. Hey, Nick from Old Fashioned Nights here. Recently, I've been making modifications to my Dewalt DW745 table saw to increase its working area. I've created a removable infeed table, a removable outfeed table, and in my last video, I created a removable side feed table. Now, all these additions have been great. It's really expanded the working area of the saw, but with all these additions, a difficult and potentially dangerous flaw arose. Now, as you may tell, it's very difficult to reach my table saw power switch to turn my saw on. And that makes it very dangerous if I need to turn off the saw if something were to go wrong with a cut, or worse, I injure myself and I can't get to it in time. Honestly, I should have addressed this problem after I created my infeed table, but at that time I thought I could still easily access the switch to turn it off. But now with the addition of the side feed table, I know I definitely need a way to safely turn on and off my saw. That's why I've gone ahead and picked myself one of these PowerTec safety pedal switches. It's rated for 2.5 horsepower or 15 amps at 120 volts. I'm not sponsored by PowerTec in any way. I did some research and landed on this one. I like that it has this big paddle, which means that if stuff does hit the fan, I don't need to be searching for it for too long. And it's large enough that I could use my knee to activate the switch and de-energize my saw. I also chose this one because it came with a male and female cords, so I can place it where I need on my saw, plug it into my saw when I'm using it, and then use the cord from the switch to plug it into my home outlet. So now all I have to do is figure out where I should place it on my saw. So here I am crouched awkwardly by my table saw. Now you might see that I'm missing my beard. Well, that's because right after I shot the intro, I caught a nasty cold and that put me down for a few weeks. It's the joys of having kids in daycare. But I'm back and ready to install the switch. So right now I have my complete table saw set up. I have my infeed table, the side feed table, and also my outfeed table, but that won't matter because it won't affect the placement of the power switch. Now ideally, I would put it directly in front of the switch on the table saw, but as you can see, I have that side feed bracket that's in the way. I also want to be able to use the switch not only for when I'm using the side feed table, but also when I'm using my infeed table. I mentioned earlier that I should have implemented this sooner for just the infeed table, and I intend to do that now. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is place it on this upright piece where the side feed table support shouldn't interfere with it. I think it's still a good spot that it should be easily accessible and able to hit quickly if I need to, and it's also at a good height where I should be able to hit it by knee if needed. So let's get it installed. Now before I go ahead and install the switch, I want to make sure the location I've chosen is a good spot where if something were to go wrong, that I would instinctively, try to access the switch at that location, that I wouldn't, hit something else or maybe catch my hand on some other part of the table saw. So I'm going to do some panic slapping and kicking just to see if that location I've chosen makes sense. Probably looks a little weird. Okay, so I think the location I chose makes sense. I'm gonna go ahead and finally install it. Got these cable staples that I'm going to put into my infeed table just to help with cable management.
Picked up these hooks here. I'll place those on the bottom of the infeed table, and I use that to wrap my cord around it when it's not in use.
Now to use the PowerTec switch, I'm going to plug my DW745's plug into it. Then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that both the DW745 table saw and the PowerTec switch are both in the off position. Next, I'll go ahead and plug the PowerTec switch's plug into my wall outlet. Now, even with this PowerTec switch installed, I still need to turn on the table saw's power switch. The PowerTec switch is basically just a second switch in series, so for the saw to operate, both must be on. And still verifying that the PowerTec switch is off, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my table saw's power switch. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the PowerTec switch and make sure everything works. The switch works. Now it's time to see that it can handle a strike from my knee if I need to quickly turn it off. Did my initial testing with the infeed and outfeed table and everything worked great. Now I'm going to throw my side feed table just to make sure everything works as expected and there's nothing that I missed. My shop's a little cramped this time of year, so everything's a little tight, but I still make it work. So that's my PowerTec switch installation on my Dewalt DW745 table saw. It kind of amazes me to see all the basically modifications I've done to this saw with the infeed table, the outfeed table, side feed table, the extra switch. It just amazes me what this little saw has become. So if you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.